This video provides detail on FAA Regulation 91.205B, required equipment for daytime VFR flight. VFR references flight in visual flight conditions under visual flight rules, the types of operations that would be done by student or private pilot that doesn't hold an instrument rating. Current regulations are available at the FAA website, www.faa.gov. Links are provided in the description. Regulations are also available in printed form from various publishers. Be sure to reference current regulations for further information on the subjects covered in this video, as regulations are subject to change. Part 91.205 covers instrument and equipment requirements for powered civil aircraft of the standard category, which is the category most light general aviation aircraft are certificated as. You can determine the category of an aircraft by referencing the airworthiness certificate. Let's start with the altimeter. An altimeter is required for all operations. An airspeed indicator. A magnetic direction indicator, typically a compass, is also required. A tachometer for each engine is required. An oil pressure gauge for each engine using a pressure system, and an oil temperature gauge for each air-cooled engine. A temperature gauge for each liquid-cooled engine. Some light sport aircraft and ultralights have liquid-cooled engines. Most typical flight trainers are air-cooled. A manifold pressure gauge for each altitude engine. This regulation is a bit odd for a couple of reasons, but let's define what an altitude engine is. In Part 1.1, where general definitions live, an altitude engine is defined as a reciprocating aircraft engine having a rated takeoff power that is producible from sea level to an established higher altitude. Typically, this would mean that the aircraft is supercharged or turbocharged, but the regulation seems to ignore naturally aspirated engines that have a constant speed propeller, of which we need a manifold pressure gauge as a direct measurement of engine power being produced. I'll talk about this more in a later video on complex aircraft. We have to have fuel gauges for each fuel tank. Landing gear position indicator if the aircraft has a retractable landing gear. For small civil airplanes certificated after March 11, 1996, an approved Aviation red or Aviation white anti-collision light system. These are usually a rotating beacon, a flashing red light, and sometimes strobe lights. Not applicable to private pilots or student pilots. If the aircraft is operated for higher over water and beyond gliding distance from the shore, you must have flotation gear and also pyrotechnic signaling device. Seat belts are required also for every passenger or occupant of the airplane that's 2 years of age or older. Shoulder harnesses are required depending on the date of manufacture. You can reference the regulation for more information. An emergency locator transmitter, if it's required. There are some cases where you're not required to have an ELT. You can reference 91.207 for more information. Most general operations will require an ELT. There are a couple of memory aids that are used commonly in the aviation industry. The first one is a Goosecat, which references most of the things that would be required in a light aircraft like a Cessna 172. It does not cover retractable gear, constant speed props, and things like that, but for your typical light single trainer, this one will have you covered. Tomato flames is another commonly used memory aid. It covers manifold pressure gauge, liquid cooled temperature gauge, landing gear position and gauge also. Thank you for watching. The next video will be a short video on the required equipment for visual flight rules for flight at night. There's only 5 items on that. I look forward to seeing you there.